Alright, you guys, what's up? We're here to try out the first actual recording for the Twisted Wonderland anime breakdown. It's not a full breakdown of the episode, but we'll kind of go over some of our notes and stuff like that we had for the episode across a couple different viewings of it. So, first basic thing is that the anime is covering pretty much just the heartslabyul section of the manga and the game, and kind of the exclusive separate scenes that were going to be just part of the anime itself. So it's kind of dipping across all the possibilities. It's going from a few things from the game, more so to the manga, and then it's going to have separate kind of anime only scenes from what I remember reading and whatnot across the past couple stuff that I've been talking about it. So let's just get into it real quick. So episode one was titled Stranger Waking, which for anyone that played the game, that is actually the name of the first chapter of the prologue of the game. So the first episode pretty much covered, I'd say, about the first three chapters roughly differently, but for the most part, it covered pretty much the first three chapters of the prologue. The main difference was that, aside from the Kendo specifically, which I believe might be more to the manga, which I haven't actually gotten into reading just yet, but that'll probably be next as well. But so the Yuken, which is the main protagonist character in the game, which is gets isekai'd by the horse carriage and ends up in Twisted Wonderland in the coffin in Nightravencollege, and that's kind of where the game similarities end because well, start and end, I suppose, because in the game itself, um, you ends up opening the coffin when the fire is already there, rather than in the anime when Grim broke into the mirror chamber a little bit afterwards, and that's when the fire itself started. So he went in when everything was already going on, or he came out of the coffin thing already when everything was happening. But outside of that, most everything I would say was pretty accurate. I mean, I haven't read the manga, but the few basic stuff that we did get so far was that the animation was done pretty well. It's Yana Soboso. Forgot her name proper, but you would know her from the Black Butler series. So if you guys are fans of that manga or anime or the movies themselves as well, kind of definitely similar artists and everything because it's the same person and whatnot. So it's cool to see that happening. Been a while since we've gone into Black Butler, but we're kind of getting off topic, so we'll just go over the notes we had for the first episode. So going back to that first part, that the title of the first episode, Stranger Waking, was the title of the first chapter of the prologue. The prologue chapters 1 through 3 is more or less what covered with the anime, and then we'll just go over pretty much the stuff that was happening for the anime itself. So that opening imagery with the mirror was pretty cool. No, kind of not backlit, but it had like a little, I'll say a spotlight, if that would be the correct term. But the artistry overall, I would consider to have been done well. And then the VA for Crowley sounded good in the his like intro bit. I do think that was done well by um I forgot who the is J. Michael Tatum. Sorry about that. I kind of paused to look up because I couldn't remember who the voice was, but he's done a lot of roles. He's in Kenichi. He's in Date Everything. He's Ingenium from My Hero. For those that are familiar with his work, I thought he did a pretty good job at voicing Crowley, or Crowley as it were, since that was kind of my one of my big notes that I been playing the game for pretty much about the time it came out with the America server. So it's been a while since I've heard uh, the names kind of done in that way. So like, reading it as like Crowley, Alistair Crowley, all that stuff. So I was generally under the impression that it's Crowley, but with the anime, and then even in the game itself, it's been said as Crowley. But that was just kind of one of my big notes, just the fact that I forgot that it's Crowley as opposed to Crowley. And then the pretty cool note as well is that the imagery of having all the animals gathered up. So there was a right before the isekai fog and mechanism happened. We had the I don't know if to say gangs per se, but like the big groups of cats. There was bats as well under the I guess like a highway overpass or something. Not might have been just a bridge, but so there was cats, bats, and crows. So we had a don't know what the grouping of bats is. It's a murder of crows and a I'm not sure what the plural for cats is, but anyway, so we had various animal groupings happening right before that as well, and then the uh, one of the quick notes as well was that the anime played music from the game itself. So the intro for the main title screen of the game appeared, as well as the when you were in the mirror chamber and everything, it had the that music playing as part of the soundtrack as well. So that was a pretty cool nod to the games that had the actual music that was a part of it. And then the main pretty much coming up with the like intro for the opening and all that was the title card of Welcome to the Villain's World. So that was a pretty cool note. I do remember that being part of the imagery in the beginning as well. Like it was part of the I think like part of the marketing and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. So that was pretty cool to see. It was just kind of touching up on like a few things that existed, prior to the anime and the game and everything getting more of a uprising in viewership and people playing and all that. So it's been getting bigger and bigger over the years. And then as it went into the intro stuff, we had um, the imagery of all the houses and the students. So we had going in order. I had heartslabyul, savanaclaw, octavinelle, scarabia, pomefiore, and ignihyde and diasomnia. So it had there it showed the students, and it also did show the overblot images, which was pretty cool. So though that's pretty much just something you see with the end of the books. That's kind of the culminating part of the arcs for each of the houses. It's when the dorm leaders, or in some case the vice house warden, in the specific case of Scarabia later on, but you see them get kind of corrupted by the overuse of their magic, and they turn like all their negative emotions and everything kind of overpower them, and they transform into something quote unquote ugly in a sense, as far as the thing that it's kind of like a perversion of the magic and whatnot. But the imagery for all their stuff, the way they look, is actually pretty cool. As the octavinelle simp of this household, of course, my favorite goes to that one. But pretty much all the ones that have appeared have been like pretty top tier. Honestly, if I had to rank them, it'd be like shoot, what would it be? Probably like Ville's Ville and Malleus sharing the top spot. Then Azul, because of course Octavinelle has to be in the top ranks for me. Jamil's was very cool too. Edia's I wasn't super fond of personally, but his is really cool too. I'd say probably Idia takes the lowest spot for me, but all in all, they're kind of like twisted versions of when they overbought is all pretty cool imagery that you see later on within the games, and you do see the kind of like dark silhouette, so you don't get an actual look of what you see their silhouette. So you see the general shape of what they look like, but you don't get an actual proper image as of yet. Except I think kind of Riddle in the ending theme. Actually, I think you get kind of a somewhat more of a view for him, which makes sense because it is the episode of heartslabyul. So season one is gonna cover pretty much book one from the game as a whole and the book of heartslabyul section of the manga. And then from there and the overblot imagery and everything, it jumps into basically what is the titular, well, not titular because it's not the title, but what is basically the main theme for the game and the anime itself. I can touch I can see them using the song from book 5 for the opening if they get into the pomefiore section for the anime later on, but I would imagine they keep the the Piece of My World song for the opening all the way through for the anime. I used to really hope so because that's pretty much the outside of some of the event songs and the dorm songs when you finish up and whatnot. But that's pretty much the song for the game as well. But yeah, so that was a really cool point that they brought, and then um, so after the opening, it just kind of goes into exposition of how Yukin ended up there. It was the isekai mechanism via the horse-drawn carriage and the coffin is basically just, according to Crowley, is just time and space teleportation, which I don't remember if they used that exact wording for the game itself, but given that you start in, well, not start, you appear in Twisted Wonderland, but the implication is that you are in like the human world pretty much, and you end up in Twisted Wonderland. And then from there, we just it you get into all the exposition. You get to see and hear the characters talking. So you see pretty much everyone except for Malleus because they canonically he rarely gets invited to things. People kind of forget about him because they're afraid and all that. They're intimidated. So Malleus in general is pretty much alone a lot of the time outside of like the other diasomnia boys and you when he gets more in tune with him and whatnot. So that's stayed pretty true to the lore. You don't see Malleus outside of the opening and then the little kind of like paper doll chibi outro at the end after the ending theme of the episode. So the main thing that part of the breakdown is that I mean it's not weird per se. It's just different because obviously the game is voiced, but it's on Japanese, so you don't really get to. There's intricacies to the voice acting. They do it very well and everything, but for the English part, since is what we're focusing here is the English VA's Paul Castro, Raul. I should really jot down these names for future videos. I gotta remember that. But anyway, so the English VA for Riddle, they use more of an English accent. I don't know if to say British or all that, but it's definitely more of a UK and English accent. So that's pretty proper, given that it's more like Alice in Wonderland themed. He's supposed to be the representative of the Queen of Hearts and whatnot. So that ties in well enough. And then we get to see as they go down the different character interactions, you see more and more people. We see Rook, who is part of Pomefiore, which is the one that is based off Snow White. He is emblematic of the huntsman, given that also his name is Rook Hunt. But he is very into beauty and everything, so his kind of signature thing is that he finds a lot of different things beautiful and impressive, and he's just really um, what's the word? Expressive over it. So he speaks with more of a French accent, which is very much a nice touch. I actually kind of liked that. Both for Rook and for Riddle, it's just a little bit of that kind of difference of things. And then one of the funny bits that happened is that when the once the mirror chamber is on fire and everything, you do get that kind of um, interaction with Deuce and Ace. So he's like something along the lines of like, "Let's get out of here, Juice," and he's like, "I told you my name's Deuce." So that was pretty funny once it happened in the episode itself. And of course, we see more of the boys. So we see the remaining cast of heartslabyul and the other dorms, but pretty much focusing to heartslabyul as that's where it goes. So we have honestly both Crowler and Cater gave off kind of James vibes from Pokemon, just kind of the way their characters kind of spoke at times, but definitely Cater gave off more of that vibe. And Grim, of course, being more that like feline character, definitely gives off very high Meowth vibes. And then, of course, staying true to the characters, we have Iria pretty much just speaking through his tablet because he's very avoidant of being around people and everything. He's you know, anxious and all that stuff. So but the funny thing is, he's pretty much, as once we saw that Azul was interacting with Crowley to try and curry favor for capturing him, that he gave off that kind of gamer lingo, something about like GG or something to that effect. But that pretty much sticks to Iria's character, that he is very much a gamer. So that is very fun in itself. We see as the fire breaks out, we see some of the characters hopping into action to like try and protect some of the other students. We get Jack. We get that little exchange between Leona and Vil. We see Rugi, or Ruggy, as it turns out, is also how his name is verbalized. But we have him appear, Leona, Jack, all the other ones. We have that little exchange between Leona and Vil, which is very much their dynamic. They kind of have that thing that the fandom goes for of shipping. It to my knowledge is a pretty big ship in the game. Well, yeah, I guess for the game itself, yeah, the some of the events, the vignettes, and all that, they do kind of pull to that. Especially the Cloud calling on the Savannah. That one was very high into the Leonaville ship side of things, but we get their little interaction there. We get the introduction of the mage pen, which is basically how all the students channel their magic, at least in the realm of, well, even now because you get to see it in the events and stuff like that too. But the magic pen, mage pen, however they uh, choose to call it, is basically serves as a channel for how they push out their magic, be it just regular spells and all that. But we get to see the first exposition and use of their unique magic, which each of the students has their own unique magic that is theirs and theirs alone. So it's different ones that you see here and there throughout the game, throughout the events. But Riddle's very in line to the Queen of Hearts. His spell is called Off With Your Head. So it places the collar around the neck of the person they cast it on, and it basically just cancels out all their magic. They can't use magic. So that's a lot of what you'll probably see later on, because in the game, Riddle does go on a tirade, and everyone, I don't know if to say everyone per se, but a lot of people end up with that collar around them. So once he uses it, we do have Crowley kind of bring out that exposition to kind of explain what his spell was specifically, and then just that kind of little tidbit on the magic being theirs uniquely, and along with the use of his unique spell, we get one of the, I would say there's like 1,000, if not more, at least for sure, like 700 or so. They make different rules, but no, heartslabyul being significant to the Queen of Hearts of Alice in Wonderland follows is meant to follow all its rules, all of her rules, and Riddle is straight to that extent that he gets on people for not following the rules, even if they're not always within the house, especially if they're within the Heartslabyul dorm, but more so across everything. But so we get not an image, but we hear mention of rule number 23 from them, which is one must never bring a cat to a formal affair, which is why he's trying, aside from the chaos, he's more so trying to trap Grimm as they see him as a cat, which is canonically he's more like a dire beast, some sort of, they call him a familiar, stuff like that, which is more in tune with the magic lingo side of things. But we see, for sure, like I mentioned, that's pretty much where the episode itself ends. Actually, it pretty much just ends with them catching Grimm, taking him out, and then like Riddle kind of starting to get more into that overblot side of things, like more angry and stuff like that, and that's kind of where it cuts. So I'm pretty much expecting that the next couple episodes will kind of make quick work of the rest of the prologue because it doesn't really. I mean, it kind of ties into stuff later on for some of book one, but I feel like most likely they'll just skip and or just barely go over stuff that happens in the prologue, which is in sorry not the prologue the no just prologue epilogue is at the end. I meant to say prologue, where they smash the chandelier in the cafeteria and they have to get a mage stone, or is it this? Yeah, I think it's a chandelier, but anyways, they have to go into what's basically one of the dwarf mines, and you see like an overblock creature, and they have to come back because they have to repair the mage stone for it. So I feel like they'll most likely either mention it in passing, give it maybe an episode or two, if that. But I feel like most likely they will just kind of skip the main part of what is the rest of the prologue because that's from where this episode ended. It's and they might do another couple of chapters of the prologue, more so just kind of the stuff explaining the things with the houses, the school, stuff like that. I feel like they might do that, but the that main story part of the prologue with the mine, I feel like they will most likely skip it over and then just immediately jump into the heartslabyul book of the game and the manga, and then along with after the episode, we have the ending theme, which is obedience, which is kind of the heartslabyul song, which we have no the VAs for heartslabyul performing it. We have, and it's very high in. It was a good song. I liked it. Very emblematic of that dynamic for heartslabyul. With the lines of like "Yes, Your Majesty," or I think it said my pleasure, Your Majesty. Some yes, my queen. Something to that effect. But basically that given the title of the song being obedience, it does fall into that theme very well. And throughout the imagery of the ending theme, we do get more of a silhouette of the of riddles over blah. We see more of the interaction with the heartslabyul students. We see Deuce, Cater, Trey. We see Grim, Kaleem, Crowley, Idia, Vil, and Leona. They appear after that in what is basically the kind of like that paper doll chibi-ish animation. We have Riddle, Azul, Idia, Crowley, Kaleem, Vil, and Leona. You see Malleus at the end, but basically how that starts is they're kind of running a rehearsal for the not internship. What's the thing? For the mirror ceremony. I forgot what they called it, but the acceptance ceremony and all that. So they're in the chamber. They're trying to run a ceremony for it, and at that point, Kaleem's like, "Oh, we should make it, like this big event, have elephants and the parade and all that stuff." And then at some point, someone's like, "Hey, where's Malleus?" And then it cuts to him being somewhere on the outside of the school, just like looking on, and he's like, "Oh, I feel like they forgot to invite me." So that's very much stayed accurate to the story part of things. And then the only main other thing we have in discussion for the thing, which we already kind of broke down, is that the coffin thing ran a little differently compared to the game, and that episode one for the anime basically covered chapters 1 through 3 of the prologue of the game. And from what I've glanced in different kind of like articles and things, that the anime is gonna be more closely done in the way of the manga rather than the game, and it will have things that are exclusive to the anime as far as some of the scenes are concerned. So we'll have the breakdown for that as we get into future episodes. And so just a quick reminder for everything as we go on, since this is kind of the test run of the anime breakdown videos we have for season 1, the episode of heartslabyul. Episode 1 is done. Episode 2 comes out a few days from time recording. It comes out on this next upcoming Wednesday, so all episodes will release weekly, starting October 29th with episode 1, and taking us through to pretty much about mid-December with the 8th episode. So we have that weekly release. We will go over just kind of episode by episode, and then depending on episodes and time of, I don't know, timing to record, because this is a little more of a process than I was expecting it to be, but no, kind of good to test out in the realm of things later on for more content as well. But we'll go over the episode by episode for as we go along the next couple of weeks, and at the end, probably maybe right around New Year's or so, Christmas, that time frame, we'll probably do a kind of full run of the season, kind of, you know, our thoughts on it and stuff like that. So we'll go over that later on, figure things out as it goes down by it. But that's gonna be it for now, you guys. As always, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to share and like the videos, subscribe to the channels, all that good shit. It truly helps and is appreciated. And if you have any comments, concerns, questions, definitely feel free to drop those. We'll try to take things into account for how we do future videos later on. But that'll be it for this one, you guys. Episode 1 of the Twisted-Wonderland anime is out already. It is available on Disney Plus and Hulu, depending on how you choose to stream it. It might be, and it's mostly those two just because that's how they're tied in company wise. But it's available. Episodes dropping Wednesday. I assume most likely midnight. I don't think they were time locked per se, to my knowledge, but we'll check it out if that happens to change at all, depending on when time on the hour of when episodes are dropped. We'll break the news and we'll see you on the other side for this specific video. Probably, um, we'll try and record it shortly after the episode, give it like a viewing or two, and then try and break it down on like the Thursday or the Friday, depending on how things roll. And we'll try and put it out properly, just based off how things are going. I don't think we'll manage videos same day when it comes to the anime, just work because of work schedule and all that. But we'll try our best to keep it within that week, just by virtue of how things are going. But anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for everything. Signing off. Peace out.